Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Covestro Arena at K2022. Looking good this morning? Yeah, how you feeling? All right, and good morning to you if you're joining us online through our various digital channels. Today, we will talk about sustainable living. Well, who doesn't want to live sustainably, right? The real estate industry is responsible for 40% of global CO2 emissions. So there's a lot we can do. And we want to find out how advanced materials or a different thinking of how we should live in the future can actually make a difference. And we have a wonderful project. It's called Stadtquartier 2050, a city quarter that has been done by Fraunhofer Institute, and Covestro has played an important role in all this, since they're on this stage today. So we want to first hear about Stadtquartier 2050, and then we will open up to your questions, and also we have someone from Covestro here on the stage to answer all of your questions. So, first off, please give a big round of applause to our two keynote speakers, Valerie Graf-Drasch and Ulrich Buhl from Fraunhofer. This is your stage. Take it away, guys.
Okay. So thank you very much for your kind introduction, and I'm happy to give you the first part of the talk before I hand over to Valerie for the second one. Now, indeed, what is our topic? The topic is living sustainably, as you mentioned, in line with climate and also society. The question is also, how is that combinable with the equality we need? Our positions are, I'm the head of the FIM Research Center, and we both have worked and work for Fraunhofer. And so it will be a university and a Fraunhofer connection that is participating in the project together with partners like forerunner and Covestro and so on, right? So what is the challenge? You mentioned this. We have a huge fossil fuel crisis. We have skyrocketing prices, we have endangered supply, and in this difficult situation, with this high portion of CO2 emissions from the real estate sector, this is the one part that is important, that we work on that, and the other part is the production, right? That we do this climate neutral based on renewables. And also, yeah, we have to work together as a society, as landlords, with the industrial sector to solve this challenge. Now, as I mentioned, solving this challenge in line with affordable living is one challenge, because you know all these skyrocketing prices, and if we are too expensive in building, if we are too expensive in the usability phase, especially in high-price regions, we have here, not only here in Düsseldorf, but in many areas in this country and outside of this country. So this is also difficult. So that means we also have to start at the very beginning how affordability goes in line with these targets I mentioned. Now, as I said, we have two main challenges. The one is enabling this shift, especially combining when we try to make existing districts climate neutral, often in combination with new parts of district where we have new buildings. How do we combine that in such a way, right, that we use sector coupling and also high quality insulation to make sure that this works out? But then once the building or the districts are constructed in the coupling phase, in the using phase, it's extremely important that we integrate the people that are living in these districts, that they behave in the right way. And in the first place, so what we are doing is we look at this from a integrated, complete perspective, both in energetic and in financial optimization questions, and also from the Fraunhofer side in using digital technology to support this transformation. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is give you a combination of a number of projects where we try to tackle these questions. The first is on the production, on the industry side, and particularly on the energy-intense industry side. It is important that energy-intense projects are, production processes are performed, particularly then if there are a lot of renewables in the electricity systems, and fewer production when you have more fossil electricity production and less renewables. And that means I need demand-side management to do that at the right side. And this is the main focus of a project we have done in the last 6 years. We will do in the next 4 years, funded by the German government with 100 million euros for these 10 years. And one of the energy-intense partners is also Covestro in this project, right? Then we do not only Stadtquartier 2050, we have another 5 district projects, one of them with Vonovia, other with other partners, where always this sector coupling idea is the central question. How, for instance, how one can use waste energy in a way that no kilowatt hour is wasted, that is created at one side and not used at the other side. And the third project we want to have the focus today is the Stadtquartier 2050, right? Which focuses on these 2 targets, sustainability in high-price regions combined with affordable living. And as I said, one focus for that is what can be done, right, to make the way the residents live then also climate efficient and affordable at the time. And this is exactly the point where Valerie will continue. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So hello from my side. I have the pleasure to introduce you to the Stadtquartier 2050 project. So the project is more or less a lighthouse project, and as we have heard, it has 2 goals. First, to make the living space there environmentally sustainable, so to create climate-neutral districts. And second, to make this sustainability not only environmental, but also socially sustainable. So to have a living space that is affordable, so that people there are fans for sustainability, not only because it's green, but also because they can afford living there. And now let's have a look at one of our sample districts, because you know there are a lot of districts involved in the Stadtquartier 2050 project. And we now dive into one of our districts. It is in Überlingen at Lake Constance. You can see the lake there, so it is a beautiful living area. And we basically see here the modern buildings. We have, of course, solar panels on the roof. So it's modern, it has modern materials such as those provided by Covestro. And at the same time, we here took a very social, sustainable perspective. And we created penthouse apartments at the top, but there are also residential units at the bottom. So we have different levels of living and different levels of flats here, but all these flats are sustainable from a social perspective and from an environmental perspective. And you know, having great buildings that are affordable and environmentally sustainable is just one half of the story. But when you have people living there that don't care about sustainability, you know, it doesn't work. The whole solution would not work because the people living there have to behave in a sustainable way. And the question is, how do you get the people there to behave sustainably? Well, of course, a top-down approach would be possible, but this wouldn't be long-lasting, because telling people what they have to do might work for a couple of days, maybe for a couple of months, but not in the long run. So we really take a citizen-centric approach in this district. So we ask the citizens, what do you need in order to behave in a sustainable way? What do you want? How can we educate you? Which information do you need in order to make this solution work in Überlingen? And this is necessary because when you ask people what they want and which information they need, you also increase their acceptance for this living area. You increase their acceptance, you generate a hype, a vibe, a vision, and then the solution is, or the whole building takes an integrative perspective. And you might ask yourself, well, how do you get people to behave sustainably? Well, we take a couple of approaches. Of course, they are all transparent, they're all data-driven, we communicate a lot. So we first make the whole topic of sustainability accessible. So we provide transparent information, we set impulses, we make people to reflect on their own energy consumption behavior. And of course, sustainability should also be fun, right? So we use a lot of gamification approaches. And we all combine these approaches in one single application, which my team and we developed together. And this is a mobile application, so an app. And the goal of this app basically is the climate, to get the residents to behave climate neutral and sustainable, and also to, well, to reflect on their behavior. So our app roots on transparency, on notching, and on gamification. So let's have a look at our app. So as you can see here, we have this gamification approach. So when you use our app, you can play games, more or less, and to some degree. So you get some challenges, and when you fulfill those challenges, when you behave sustainably in your daily routines, you proceed in the app, and you can enter new levels, and also you compare yourself to your neighbors or to other people in the district. Second, we of course provide general advice. So we tell people what sustainability is about, what climate neutrality means, and what each one can do in order to be part of the solution. And besides this generic advice, we also reflect, or make them reflect, their consumption. So we tell them how much resources they use. So we tell them how much warm water they used, how much heating they used, how their power consumption is. So we really feed back a lot in order to get them to reflect on what they did and how they can maybe improve, to improve the whole district. So with the residents aboard, we are convinced that the real estate sector can take a leap into climate neutrality. So I think the key messages of our presentations are clear. First, energy efficiency must go hand in hand with affordability. And this balance might be even better when you involve the citizens to be part of the solutions. And to make this triple bottom line work, you of course need innovative approaches such as digital technologies or applications, but also, of course, modern materials such as provided by Covestro. We are now looking forward to your questions and comments.
All right. Thank you so much, Valerie. And I would like to also invite Fernando Resende to join us on stage. And Ulrich Buhl, of course, you're invited too. Everyone come back on stage. Because, Fernando, come join me here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're the Covestro partner in this project. So tell us a little bit about Covestro's role. What did you do and why did you join at all?
Okay. Yeah, our contribution here was with the insulation. Now we had polyurethane insulation which was provided to this project. And then what's particular in this project is because usually when we talk about residential building, we use our insulation to the roof, to the floor, but usually not to the walls. But in this case, we had a lot of, let's say, the whole project was insulated with polyurethane. And why? No? Why also the decision for the walls? There was a calculation that the developer did together with our customer, Prof, and then what they realized is, if they use usually for insulation of buildings, we have a stone wool for residential buildings. And then the insulation layer would be thick like this, 25 centimeters. When they did the same calculation with PU, would be something like this, 15 centimeters. Then they save 10 centimeters. And then the developer say, what we do with these 10 centimeters? We simply put inside of the apartments. But this was times 108 apartments. So all these saves at times 108 meant in the end we had 3 apartments more. So they were able to add 3 apartments more to this project. And of course, they paid all the extra investment they did when they went to this option of using polyurethane. So it was a very clever decision, especially when we talk about climate neutral projects. Now we need usually a lot of insulation. And with PU, with the superior thermal performance, we saved a lot of space. No? And one talk that I always have in this direction, because that's a reference project for the German government. No? And then here in Germany at the moment, the government say we need to build 400,000 apartments per year. No? If we take the same logic and we say we could use polyurethane insulation for these buildings. In the case of Überlingen, we had 108 apartments. With PU, we add 2% more, more or less. 3 apartments means 2% more. For 400,000 apartments, that could mean 8,000 apartments more. And we are talking about social housing here. That means 8,000 family more could have access to this kind of building. So it's important. We are talking about affordable housing. We are talking about climate neutrality. And we can bring this benefit from polyurethane to this project. So I think that's a contribution that we did here. But we can do much more, not only in Germany, but in different countries all over the world.
It's very impressive. And we have the project as well as the polyurethane rigid foam on display there. So let me ask you, how does this whole thing relate to the circular approach? I mean, with so many industries, we talked about, creating circular products or closing the loop. How does this apply to, in general, the living situation? Yeah,
I would say there are different approaches in terms of circular economy. One first thing that is actually very fresh, it's one component that we developed this year. It's called climate neutral MDI. No? And the climate neutral MDI, it's what it is. Now, MDI is the main component for polyurethane insulations. 60 to 7% of the insulation is made with MDI. And then when we bring a climate neutral component to this formulation, means we can reduce the carbon footprint from the insulation by 50, 60%, depending on the formulation from the customers. No? And how we do this? We are adding, instead of petroleum, we are using waste. And waste from agriculture, waste from cooking oil. And then we are adding this to the formulation. And then we can achieve this benefit. Then there is the dramatic reduction of CO2 emissions when we do this by simply using waste. Now, that's one way that we are using. And then also, there is another way that I could mention Puhen, our partner in this, our customers in this project, because they are a pioneer company here in Germany, and I would say also in the world, because they are doing mechanical recycling since a while, since many years. And by the way, at the end of this year, they are to open a state-of-the-art facility also here in south of Germany to expand even more the mechanical recycling of polyurethane. And they are transforming this, let's say, rigid foam, this waste, they are transforming this into parts, into insulation, to buildings. So that's about collaborations, not only, let's say, we as Covestro, but when we collaborate with our customer, we can achieve much more. No? In this case, we are supplying a binder to them, and they can do this magic with the product. No? That's one thing. And thinking long-term, another thing that Covestro is doing, it's also mechanical recycling, which is also a very important step. We have a project here in Europe called Circular Foam. With many projects, Covestro is in the lead of this, many partners, Covestro is in the lead of this project, and to achieve also chemical recycling solution for polyurethane. So there are a lot of things going on, and the construction is a very important market for Covestro, and then we know our responsibility in this way, then we are doing a lot in this way.
It's an important market for sustainability, yes. So
yes.
Then keeping the materials in the loop. Very good.
Yes, that's very important.
All right, so at this point, I want to open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions from the audience to either Covestro or Fraunhofer about this project? Anyone? I'm looking at the screen. I'm just seeing a presentation. No questions from the digital audience, but, oh yes, we do have a question. Please.
Make the icebreaker. Thank you very much for this very good presentation. Question to Valerie Graf-Drasch. You mentioned, and you have demonstrated the nice pictures of the new buildings and the new app. Question is, as Fernando said, we have a lot of existing buildings in Germany. Do you think that you can transform the experience from this project also to the existing residential sectors, where we all know we have a tremendous amount to do and to invest to make the existing buildings more sustainable?
Thank you for the question. Of course, we can and we should transfer our knowledge and our experience to the existing building sector. I think that's necessary. And you know, the benefit of digital technologies is that, of course, some instantiation is necessary, so some infrastructure is necessary, but you know, an app basically works on your mobile phone, so it should be quite easy to install some benefits, some aspects that make residents there to reflect on their behavior. So I think we can, well, make some progress with digital technologies, definitely, and then, of course, some building measures and activities have to follow to, well, to keep up with the trend of sustainability and climate neutrality.
All right.
And if I may add here, the app and the resident behavior is one important part, maybe the most important part, but it's also from the energy side, right? Combining in larger districts existing building with new ones is, in terms of sector coupling, very interesting, because typically you need higher temperature levels in the existing districts and then in the new one. So you can also use in the usage phase, right, these different temperature levels. And of course, as you said, 400,000 flats is what we want to construct. It won't work in the end. The political will, right, is there to start with first and to support that. And that means whenever we think about a new district, we should also think how to combine industry nearby and also existing districts and make a larger combined living and production districts. That's the way forward.
Do we have any more questions? Yes.
Hello, it's Christina from Covestro. I have another question to Valerie. So I'm very positive about this gamification. So you explained that, and yesterday we heard something about changing the future with sense of belonging. So it sounds a lot like that. Yeah. So you want to be the king of the savings or the sustainability. And very positive, you didn't speak about data privacy. Still, I'm interested, how did you get over it? Because I'm thinking about using this gamification in other industries.
Yes, thanks for asking. You know, data privacy is important and a big issue in Germany, and of course, we can't drop it because it's there and we have to consider it. So our app basically considers data privacy, of course, and there's a lot of, you know, we ask them, the people, what they want to do and which data they want to share, so they can do it voluntarily, and also the comparison thing, they can do it on a voluntary basis. And well, that's possible at the moment with the data privacy, but let's see where the data privacy issue goes in the sustainability context. I can imagine that it would be great to get more data or to give the people more data at, well, at a better level, at a more personalized level. We are not there yet, but maybe we'll get there.
Very good question. Any more questions from the audience? Yes.
Thank you very much. I have one question to the scalability. I mean, that obviously has been a very visionary project. We see the houses are built, so that means planning has obviously started quite some time ago. Energy saving since then has probably reached a totally new level, especially in the times where we are in at the moment. Do you see that this triggers any additional interest or any conversations for you now to bring this idea also to other German governments or other interested parties?
Who should start?
Who wants to?
Who feels most comfortable?
Maybe one thing. Indeed, as you said, at the time this Stadtquartier 2050 announcement from the German government came, it was also a €100 million announcement, and we have worked on that now for the last 5-6 years. And there the idea was to create this kind of districts with this social acceptability plus sustainability in terms of energetic subject together. And at the time, as you mentioned, energy prices were a large portion from what we have today. And that means that whatever has been done, right, which has had a small financial impact at the time where we planned it, is now huge. Now many things we have invented will now on the on the energy prices we have today will have a huge financial impact. That's one thing. And the other thing with data privacy, I might also add here, if we now say people get 80% subsidized, but not the 20% on top. This is also an interesting question. If we had discussed that for 3, 4, 5 years ago, that we want to do something like that, or the data protection specialist would have said never, right? Now the situation has to be implemented, right? Both from the energy providers, but also from the landlords that are responsible. And therefore, it's a very nice example where data protection laws have to follow the fossil challenges we're in.
All right, do we have any more questions? So what's interesting to me is, Valerie, you know, this whole gamification approach. And what I find in many industries, or as consumers when we go to the grocery store, is sometimes we just lack the transparency to actually make a decision what product to buy. So when you introduce transparency into the living situation, you know, many people don't know how much, you know, warm water they use or heating, how they can improve. It could actually help influence the behavior a lot. So how has it been so far? I mean, you talked about the concept, but what were the results? Did you actually see a lot of change behavior through this gamification?
So we are actually just rolling out the app. So we are testing it with some test households. And we had some great dialogues with people who said, well, with this features, I would change my behavior. We just started the measurement, so we can't tell yet at the moment. But let me add something to transparency and gamification. So I think transparency only would not work. And this is also the result of the dialogues, because telling people transparently, you used, I don't know, 700 liters the last couple of days, weeks, or doesn't matter. They can't really process this information. Is it much? Is it little? I mean, 700 liters, what does it mean? What is the comparison? So we have to make this information fun and accessible to people in order to make them to change their behavior. We have to tell them, well, you used 10 bathtubs of water, so they can imagine what this actually means. And that's the reason why we follow this gamification approach and don't only work with transparency, and let's see how it works out. But we are confident that a lot of people are willing to change their behavior once they have the right information.
So the carrot is always more powerful than the stick, and not incentivize and maybe, I mean, show them how much money they save also. So you should come back at next K and tell us about
I will.
the status of the project. So Hans-Ulrich Buhl, what interests me is, can this concept, and this is great for living quarters, can this be translated to, I don't know, say commercial buildings, to industry buildings? I mean, Covestro has a huge industrial complex. Can we learn something from that and have maybe do a pilot for an industrial complex?
Yeah. Actually, this is a question that Valerie also could answer, but I started and you...
Well, you can both comment on it.
Complete me. No, actually, if you have... I mean, all companies are struggling to get interesting, qualified people, right? And what you can see is that the current generation that is entering now after their studies, to their first job, they want to be proud on their employer. They want to be sure that he's a part of the solutions and not a part of the problem. And if this is the case, right, then companies are challenged to see, to show that what they do in terms of circular economy and whatever, and efficient energy use and flexible energy use, if they are good. And then also here, the employees are an important part of this energy and water consumption within this office or production buildings. And that means you can employ very similar concepts in this area, also in the industrial part, right? To make sure that companies can do their can be successful in mastering the challenge to get excellent people. I guess this is the most important part. And so, indeed, we have a number of projects also with industrial districts and with combination of districts where we employ similar concepts.
All right. Do you want to add anything?
Not at the moment.
All right. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Now come the questions.
It's really, yes, but now we're out of time. So thank you so much for coming, sharing your experiences. We should be, tracking that project, and hopefully Covestro will continue to be a strong partner in all of these endeavors. Yeah. And, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. And this is your applause.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.